Hey everyone, it's the Crypto Flu here and I'm back with another video. We're finally getting into part 2 of Midcap trading. The main reason for the delay is that I've been pretty diseased the last week or so I've not really been up to doing much at all. I did however get to do a bit of day trading during the day when I was just sitting there doing nothing. So I'm pretty glad to be back doing things again, and also I've got a pretty monotone voice without a cold, so you're not really going to notice much difference. Okay, so let's just get straight back into it. In the last video we talked about 2 of the 4 main trading strategies I use when trading: the news trader and also the day trader. Now one was kind of like a low skill, fairly low time, and the other was quite a lot of time and quite a lot of skill too. But the next 2 are kind of in the middle and can be really handy if you don't have time or have too much time to do some of the other ways. So the third strategy is a value hunter. Now hunting for value is quite a tricky thing to do in the current climate, but if you know what you're looking for and you know what makes a good coin, then this will come pretty easy to you. Some of the best types of traders from all types of trading completely base what they do off of fundamentals and how the product or the system actually performs. Warren Buffett is one of the most famous, and he's also one of the richest people in the world. One thing I would say that this strategy has to have is patience. If you don't have the patience to hold something potentially 4 or 5 months, even a year plus in some cases, then this strategy probably isn't for you. Now it can be pretty tricky to discover something that would be classed as undervalued. You also have to have a pretty good perspective of the entire cryptocurrency market, as that will give you good things to compare against. But to be fair, often your ability to pick things that are undervalued will come with experience. Now a bit of a cheat way to find out about which coins are undervalued is to just look at what everyone's bag holding. Over the last year or 2, there's been a few coins that have been undervalued, and then eventually after they've shaken everyone out, they went on to pump like 10 to 100 times the original price. I've been in a few of these. Probably the most popular tragic coin that never pumped, that was always undervalued, was Digibyte. There was a time where I held about 20 million of these at 30 satoshis, and through the thick and thin for about 6 months I held them and eventually sold them off at 80 satoshis, which at the time I was like, oh great, you know, that's an alright return for the amount of time I've held it. But actually it turned out to be pretty poor in the end. Once the market maker realised that he'd shaken everyone out, coin went up to 2000 satoshis, which would have been a disgusting amount of money if I'd sold at the top. But equally, you know, I do have some good stories with undervalued coins such as Rayblock. I got in with an average bag of around 1000 satoshis and I managed to sell it for about 12 to 13,000 recently. But that coin sat under a $20 million market cap for about 9 months. There was coins with similar tech which arguably was less accomplished, such as IOTA, which were sitting over $1 billion market cap. There was an obvious indicator there, to me at least, that the coin was undervalued for what it offered, and it was just a case of patience and holding through with it. Another recently that went in moon that kind of came under this category was Verge. Love it or hate it, you know, some of the technology on the coin was pretty good, and for ages it was sitting at a very small market cap. Okay, so I thought we'd try and maybe find something that was undervalued today that, you know, you could potentially look at and invest. Probably the first place I'd start looking around is CoinMarketCap. As I've said before, CoinMarketCap's a pretty standard site that will give you all the information you need on pretty much all existing cryptocurrencies. Now I'm looking for something that has a low market cap. Ideally you want this coin to be under $20 million market cap, although I should say that a coin could have a bigger market cap than that and have potential to go on the moon. But generally, you know, the more money in something already, the less likely in the longer it's going to take to move to make a significant return. Okay, so we found something quite interesting here. I actually have previous experience of this coin. It's called Alice. Now, Alice is a Japanese social media orientated blockchain. Now, there's quite a small amount of Japanese coins that exist. Obviously, you should maybe do a bit of research, but I know offhand that the two main ones are New Economy Movement and also Mona, which was kind of their version of Dogecoin. So let's check them out. New Economy Movement has an $8 billion market cap right now. Now, to me, when I see that as the potential money that could possibly go into a lower value coin such as Alice. Obviously, it's not entirely Japanese money, but they were big supporters of the coin, and they're also heavy traders of the Bitcoin markets now. Japan already, if you don't know, has already laid the foundations for cryptocurrency to be safe and regulated to use, and also to function in day-to-day life. There's a large amount of stores in Japan that accept Bitcoin and possibly other currencies as well. Now, that's the sort of thing you're looking for here. Now, obviously it's not going to be that straightforward and you probably have to do a bit more research, but that for me was something that instantly caught my eye and I was like, oh yeah. Now, the other one is Monacoin here with just over a $500 million market cap. To me, and if you've researched Mona at all, there isn't a huge amount of special development over the coin. It was originally kind of just a Japanese version of Dogecoin, so fundamentally it's not particularly strong, but the fact that it's valued so high perhaps shows how willing the Japanese are to support their homegrown coins. I would say that fundamentally Alice has a lot more promise. Now, another handy thing you can do to kind of get a bit of like a feeling of what people think about the coin is check Twitter. You may be familiar with cash tags, and I'm just going to search Alice and see what comes up. Oh, so this is a handy tip for anything in general if you're going to be researching. Recently, Twitter searches have been spammed with loads of referral links and stuff. So there's a few ways you can begin to reduce and filter it for better content. If you use like a minus sign in front of certain words, it'll take out all the tweets that have those words in it. So obviously we can take away things like discount. In this case it's probably best to get rid of Binance, although you could shoot yourself in the foot there if Alice was to get listed on Binance. There's not actually a huge amount on Alice, to be fair, actually, after searching through for a while. That can actually be quite a good sign because it means that it's under people's radars. You know, I could easily at the very least seeing this hitting 100 million once the project develops a little more and people begin to see the project and its potential. Now, it currently trades on Cryptopia, so that's probably where you're gonna have to go to accumulate it. The order books do look a little thin, so you're gonna have to be pretty patient accumulating this, and you're also gonna have to be pretty patient in waiting for the price to go up, and then also in selling it so that you get a decent average, because there's a good chance that the books will be too thin for you just to sell instantly. Obviously there's probably a lot more in there, but a lot of it's down to research and making sure you can get a good entry, because even if something is fundamentally amazing, you also need to make sure that your entry is technically amazing too. Okay, so the last technique I'm going to talk about is quite interchangeable with a few of the strategies I've talked about, and that is breakout trading. Now, the goal here is to identify coins that potentially at some point in the future are ready to break out of their trading range and then buy the breakout. Now, the main way I would do this is by looking at charts, looking for areas that a breakout would occur in, and then set alarms on either your phone or computer or whatever that notify you when the price has reached that point. You could also, if you really want, set like automatic orders to buy when the price hits a certain amount. I wouldn't necessarily go down that route in case they malfunction or the sell side's too thin and you end up pumping up the price way above where you wanted to enter. Okay, so up here I've got the Bitcoin gold chart. It's something I've been swing trading quite a lot recently. It's been fantastic for breakouts, so I'm going to show you how to identify areas that would be ideal to buy or equally sell at. Now, for ages this coin was in a pretty big downtrend, but around about here it started to stabilize in price and we started to see it not really declining and also kind of making higher lows. So a good indicator here was these 2 points here and also there. Now you'll see this line here I've drawn was an area in which the coin struggled to break out of. What I would do here in this situation is set an alarm on my phone. I typically use something like Blockfolio, or there's also Bitcoin Checker, which supports a number of exchanges. Basically, you set kind of like a logic operation. So if the price goes over this certain point, like send an alarm. Now it can be a pretty effective way of trading because you don't hold the bag until it's moving, and that reduces your risk for the coin not working out and ended up going down. One of the risks is though that when it goes, it's gone and your bag might not be completely filled. So here, basically kind of fifth attempt, it was broken and then pumped up. At this point, it does actually kind of make sense that it broke down here, because if you look here, this was kind of where the coin tried to give up a bit of a fight and failed. Obviously it kind of made for a good like area to test. Now from that point, you know, you're going to be looking for it to break out from there, but also bearing in mind some of the other lines you have existing here. The line we initially drew is also quite relevant a little later down the line when we attempted kind of 2 or 3 breakouts, and then I tested the support here before shooting straight past the previous resistance and then challenging the 0.0256 of a Bitcoin. This was also an area where it was previously support and then was broken. So looking at this from here now, you'd have to say possibly around here is the new support line. I have to say that basically breakout trading comes down to buying support lines. That was mentioned in my previous video about day trading, so it's definitely worth a watch that if you haven't already. But basically the way I would have traded this was set an alarm for the 0.025. I'd also have set an alarm for 0.017 basically, and then I'd also have set an alarm for 0.029. Now currently the coin is sitting pretty in the 0.0187 range. I would maybe buy here because there's a little bit between here and the next kind of support line. But another thing you can also do with breakout trading is the breakdown trading. So set alarms for if the price goes lower than a certain point, and that's something I'd probably do here if I wanted to buy. I would set an alarm for probably about 0.0175 and then assess it if it broke that area. But obviously I'd be hoping for it to go up and potentially even challenge 0.025 again if I bought here. The chart's still pretty young, so there's going to be some discovery and then people setting new support and resistance lines. I've also got a few tips for midcaps in general that are just things you should be bearing in mind when you are trading them. As a general rule, I would never buy anything that's went up over 15% in a single day. There's a good chance it's going to retrace as people try and take profits for the day. The only way I'd go against that rule is if there was a very obvious like bull flag and it was going to be going up pretty much soon or straight away. With altcoins, especially the midcaps, they're probably the most sensitive to Bitcoin moves, partly because they don't have as much liquidity, but there's also a lot of people in them. So you really need to plan around what Bitcoin's up to. Altcoins have kind of been moving with Bitcoin and going down with Bitcoin, but for a lot of the time in the past and also in most parts of the cycle, altcoins will correlate negatively against Bitcoin. So you also need to potentially set alarms and chart Bitcoin. When you're going to buy something, buy it slowly because you never know what the price is going to do in the next day. You might feel in that moment like you've got to buy, like this is the perfect opportunity, but you can't predict the short-term future most of the time. So maybe only buy about 30 to 40% of your bag initially, and then put bids or come back and check it in a few hours, that sort of thing, before eventually building up to 100%. Some markets will need more patience than others depending on how liquid they are and how much buy and sell support there is. When you're entering something, make sure you also have an exit plan if everything's going wrong. Something that a lot of people don't realise is that perhaps the coin might be worth 10,000 satoshis and it doesn't really seem like the price has gone down much if it hits 8,000 satoshis, but that right there is like a 20% loss, which can be huge if you're playing with a lot of Bitcoin. If you invested 10 Bitcoin into that coin, you would have 8 Bitcoin in that moment, which right now is over 30,000. Give yourself a clear exit strategy for the good and also the bad. Something else to bear in mind is that there's pretty much always a market maker running the show in a mid-cap coin, and compared to things like stocks and shares, and also high cap altcoins, there's no way to short the coin unless you do it manually with what you have. So this can actually make their job a lot harder, and also can make moves a lot more extreme so that they can get decent averages for buys and sells. If coins do things like break your support lines, think carefully before exiting, because it could just be a ploy to shake people out. You kind of have to think about what most people will be doing and then try and do the opposite. So if it did break your support lines, I maybe consider buying the dip. Something that's really important with mid-cap coins is the altcoin cycle. So I'm going to show you something up on the screen here, and it's called the Psychology of Wall Street cheat sheet. And if you look at most charts, they follow pretty much a carbon copy of this pattern. Right now we are in the kind of depression slash disbelief section, depending on the coin, and these are the areas where you want to be buying. You want to be selling at peak euphoria, but obviously, you know, it's very hard to decipher between euphoria and real talk when you're actually ecstatic that your bags have went up so much. So that's where you have to grow as a trader emotionally, so that you can look at things very pragmatically and also understand where you are in this chart, because it can often decide what you're actually going to do and whether you should buy anything at all, no matter how lucrative it looks at that price. Anyway, that's about it from me. I hope you've enjoyed the overall episode on mid-cap coins. Please leave a like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter. I have a wee funny video coming up for you next, so hopefully you enjoy that. I've been really thankful for the support that I've got the last few videos, and in fact it seems like I'm getting more views in less amount of time with each one I put up. So thank you to everyone who subscribed or watched the videos or giving me some feedback. Have a really Merry Christmas and Happy New Year if you celebrate them, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.